Back in 2023, Harris County Office of Sustainability teamed up with the Coalition for Environment, Equity, and Resilience, or CEER, to develop the Climate Justice Plan for Harris County. The Climate Justice Plan, which Harris County Commissioners voted to adopt earlier this month, will tackle climate change from a variety of angles: clean air, clean water, flood resistance, and infrastructure. To tell us more, we welcome Lisa Lin, the Director of the Harris County Office of Sustainability. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
And we also welcome Stefania Tomaskovic, the Director of the Coalition for Environment, Equity, and Resilience. When I say that title, I sit up straight and taller. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I guess the first question where I would start with this is, for the equity part of it, if you are cleaning up the environment, doesn't it impact all people? So how do we say some people are getting a better, cleaner environment in a community than other people in the community?
Sure. That's a great question, Ernie. I think at the base of it, I think the bottom line is that some neighborhoods are more burdened than others, depending on their proximity to different industrial plants or concrete batch plants, that sort of thing, or if they're close to a body of water that floods repeatedly. So I think that's the part of the equity piece and the justice piece that we really want to kind of highlight, that yes, we all kind of breathe air across the region,
right,
but some parts of the region are closer to these kind of polluted areas.
So what kind of projects really, that we can look at and talk about or do you have in mind?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things we want to talk about is a little bit about how this plan came about, because this is a little bit different than a lot of other planning processes. And with our partnership on this, we really wanted to do an extensive community engagement process to really touch in with residents, especially residents who are impacted by pollution and by extreme weather, by climate issues in Harris County. And so what we did was we started this project back in 2023. We held a number of community meetings to really outline the vision and values for this process. And then along the way, we've integrated more and more community members into the process of helping to identify the major buckets of work. So there's really 5 pillars to the plan that include economy, ecology, infrastructure, community, and culture. And then really outline the specific actions, which I think you're asking about here, right? And what we see, there's a lot of things that people want to see. Some of these are very long-term actions and things that will take some time and a lot of coordination and cooperation. But then I think there's also things that are really targeted for the near term.
Yeah, and I think there's also kind of a range of some ideas being very concrete and things that we can actually start on even this year. So one example might be, reducing the cost of solar for area households, and we're actually partnering with SUN, the Solar United Neighbors kind of nonprofit, to bring down the cost of solar on rooftops. But then there's also other ones where it's like, how do we organize internally at the county and work with community partners like CEER and bring up those successful models of initiatives that have happened on the ground and bring them into the county and learn about how to replicate that and share those stories across
How is this program different from what we've had in place before? What's the new innovation in this new approach?
We haven't had a plan this robust and this holistic at the county before that focuses on not just climate, but also transparency and accountability, resilience from many types of infrastructure types, right? So from the grid, we heard a lot about grid resilience in our meetings last year. We point to the flood control district's flood resilience plan. So there's that big infrastructure kind of planning process that's underway. Even clean water and access to clean water and mobility options and transportation options. So.
Yeah, and so it says that you guys are tackling climate change from a variety of angles, and we've heard all of those angles. But whenever you're trying to tackle so much, how do you prioritize? Clean air, clean water, flood resilience, infrastructure. When you're looking at Harris County, when you pinpoint, what are you saying? Yes, people need these things, because that's a lot to cover, right? How are you effective in that?
Yeah, definitely. So in the plan, there are 70 kind of near-term or 5-year actions. But then even within that 70 list, we have 21 early actions. So between what we're doing currently at the county and what community partners are doing. And again, this plan is not just county government implementing, right? We are really leaning on our partners in the community, other stakeholders across the region to help us kind of bring this plan to life. And that's how we're seeing this moving forward into implementation.
So I don't know if you've looked at this. I've done reports on it and studied it, but there is a real dearth of just trees in certain neighborhoods, usually underserved neighborhoods. More posh neighborhoods have lots of trees, lots of shade. But trees speak to everything you're talking about: sustainability, flooding, climate, heat, urban heat island, lack of air conditioning. It's a health danger. Have you looked at this? And if you haven't, are you going to?
Yeah, I think trees are a huge issue, and not just trees, but also native plants. And grasses. So a lot of people think about trees as one of the major nature-based solutions that we can implement right away to help with exactly what you're talking about, to help protect people in their homes, to help reduce energy bills, to help people who are just walking down the street. I have lived in neighborhoods where some streets have trees, some don't. You just take a walk on a hot summer day and you notice a tremendous difference.
15 degrees.
Yes.
If you're under a tree.
So that is a huge thing that's relatively easy to implement. Right. And so the process, we actually worked with a lot of our partners in some of the local conservation groups, some of the botanical gardens. We spoke with a lot of people who are doing this kind of work and are working on ways that we can address the tree issue, and also native plants, which also help reduce heat, help reduce flooding, all these benefits that you've mentioned.
One of the when we were doing our pledge last week, one of the options was people could choose to plant a tree.
Right.
So hopefully that helped. But there's a lot to be done in that department.
You said my favorite buzzword there, flooding. So hard and soft solutions to flooding, meaning, either you build barriers or the ground that can absorb. How are we looking at this and balancing cost, maintenance, ecological benefit? How much of a part of this is in the program and what's it doing?
Yeah, if you look in the ecology section, there's pretty robust kind of actions around ecological resilience. I think a lot of our advisory collaborative members who helped shape this plan, and that was a group of community leaders that was chosen by our community partner, some youth leaders, so from high schoolers to kind of early career professionals to our commissioners' court offices. We kind of had this group that helped us think through some of these ideas, and we had a lot of folks who were very much kind of on the, I would say they're ecological leaders in this in Houston, Harris County. And so if you look at that section, there's, to Stefania's earlier point, native grasses, right? How can we introduce that at all levels of scale, like from your neighborhood, from your home, up to kind of large scale applications around the county? And so if you look at, native grasses, oftentimes their root structure can go down like 8 to 10 feet versus turf grass, which only goes down maybe a few inches. So how can we collectively introduce these interventions at different scales and make our region more of a sponge versus letting these flooding impacts happen over and over again? How can we take action?
And just to clarify, how much coverage, being the county, what is your flood control authority over the city of Houston? Does this stuff, how's the overplay? That always confuses me between city and county.
Sure. There's a lot of coordination that happens, and I think I think another follow-up segment might actually to bring in the flood control district to speak more on that partnership, because I think that happens at all scales.
How involved or bought into this project is the city of Houston?
We have had many conversations with them. A lot of the community meetings involved city staff. And so, again, with the infrastructure section, there's a lot around water. And so pointing to kind of, things that we can help tie those needs together from what we heard from the residents to what's happening at the city. Like we want to be that bridge and that connection to finding real solutions. For
I don't want to overstep, but if I remember, the city is responsible for street flooding. and making sure that that infrastructure, that those pipes, those sort of are getting down to the bayous, whereas Harris County Flood Control takes over the waterways.
Yes, but then also in unencrypted Harris County, right, our engineering department also works on street flooding and drainage issues too. And so there's, again, a lot of coordination that has to happen across scales. In the region.
You know, there are still a lot of people that perhaps they're listening to this and they think, you know, climate change, we've been talking about it for a really long time. You know, should our resources really be going towards this? You know, what do you say to people that think plant some trees and we'll be okay? I mean, this is a really big project. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to say we have been seeing year after year record-breaking heat or other kinds of extreme weather. I mean, Winter Storm Uri was very unexpected for our region, and we see these kind of extreme weather events that both I think are an indicator of some of the climate change that's happening in our region, but also have profound impact on the residents of Harris County. So I think preparing for and trying to mitigate that kind of extreme weather that's been happening is incredibly important. You know, I think we could all name some personal experiences from hurricanes, from Uri, people getting their cars flooded, their pipes bursting, but even just the chronic stress of heat. If you are living in a home that does not have either air conditioning or is not adequately insulated, you could be experiencing both extreme bills from trying to maintain an indoor environment that's safe, or you could be exposing yourself to chronic health issues. So I think you need to think about the cost. There's been studies that say that for every $1 spent in mitigation, you're actually saving $6. So it can be cost effective, but also if you think about like the whole line of costs, if we're implementing programs that help keep people out of the emergency room, we could be saving money in the long run too.
How much is all of this? And who's going to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the next phase of this implementation kind of, piece that we're in now. Because like some of them actually are just kind of process improvements. Some of them are actually low cost, no cost actions. Some of them are kind of leaning on things that are happening in the community or happening at the county. And some of them might be new. And then we'll be looking at different funding sources. You know, is it philanthropic organizations? Is it the county looking at how we're budgeting and kind of investing in this? And that's something that our Commissioners Court has also asked us to do and look at, how do we implement some of these kind of near-term wins into this upcoming budget cycle? So those are the exercises that we're undergoing now.
And we want to remind you, you're listening to Hello Houston. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. We're currently talking about the Harris County Commissioners voting on the Climate Justice Plan. So what is it, something that you think people should really understand? We talked about the economic impacts when we're not looking towards the future when it's talking about sustainability and climate. What are some things and some misconceptions that you think are still out there that y'all wish could just go away?
I mean, I really hope that people open up the document and kind of look through the different sections, because I think there is a lot of different things that will kind of bring people into wanting to participate. So if it's local nutritious food or community gardens or connected parks and green space, native seed banks at the libraries, repair cafe, lending libraries, these are all things that we heard over and over that I think are kind of very foundational to having a high quality of life here and thriving in our region.
So things that really affect people in their every single day, right? Is that what y'all are saying? Because I think about community gardens, and I love seeing them throughout Harris County. It's absolutely beautiful. My other question for you is, if people want to look at this document, where can they go to find it?
They can go to the Office of County Administration website, and the full document is online there.
We talk a lot about the cost of it. We talk a lot about the ideas and the projects behind it. But talk to me a little bit about the economic engine that it brings in creating new jobs in our area, too, to be able to implement this and the positives of its impact there.
Yeah. So I think in the economy section, there's one early action around this idea of a placement initiative. I think we at the county have been participating in this really great roundtable called the Resiliency Workforce Collaborative that's been funded by JP Morgan Chase. And it's working with Houston Community College and a lot of these like workforce providers. And what we've heard from participating in that is that oftentimes there's a great pipeline, but then where do the upskilled folks kind of end up? And like, where can we as like large employers play into that pipeline and having economic opportunities for folks who want to understand how to get into the clean energy transition space or weatherization or construction, that sort of thing. So we want to explore that and work with other large employers to figure that out.
Well, that sounds very exciting. Lisa Lin is the director of the Harris County Office of Sustainability, and Stefania Tomaskovic is the director of the Coalition for Environment, Equity, and Resilience. Lisa and Stefania, thank you both for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Plant a tree.
That's right.